Welcome back to another episode of Let's Face the Facts. I'm your host. My name is David Almeida. I'm an actor in Orlando, Florida, and every week I sit down with an actor or artist friend. We watch an episode of The Facts of Life, and then I hit record and we talk about the show and anything and everything else we can think of. Still weird audio right now, I'm aware. That's because I'm still in the villages, just finishing up the run of this fun little Cole Porter review that I'm doing up here. I will be back in Orlando in the quote-unquote studio starting next week. And in the meantime, you get this lovely sound, which I don't even really know what it's going to sound like in the final product. We will discover that together, won't we? My guest this week is Tim Williams. Tim is an actor, director, voiceover artist. When you hear his voice, you'll be like, yeah, that's a guy that should be doing voiceover work. We talk in the show about when we worked together and my first impressions of him, but mostly we worked together at Citizens of Hollywood at the wonderful Walt Disney World, and we've done a couple of plays together. He's directed me in a couple of shows, and we've enjoyed a lovely professional relationship as well as a really nice friendship, and he is truly one of the most extraordinary actors in Central Florida. Whether he's doing a Shakespeare drama, a Neil Simon comedy, interactive improv, and then you go and see him do a production of Billy Bishop Goes to War, and you're like, oh, he sings too. Jesus. Anywho, you will get to know Tim as we proceed. Tim and I watched Season 3, Episode 13. It's called The Americanization of Miko, and the original air date was January 20th, 1982. I think we're ready to jump on in, guys. Let's face the facts with Tim Williams. Well, welcome, Tim Williams.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. This is fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
got a belly full of Oreo cookies and sandwich meat.
Exactly.
So I'm
but if
happy.
Matthew Arter asks, I did not feed you. Because Matthew claims that I do not feed him when he comes here. Well, I do, but he claims that I don't, and he gives me shit for what I serve other people.
Then I will not tell him that you had a smorgasbord. A smorgasbord.
No, I can't possibly edit that out.
And pickles.
And giving the pickles to Tim Williams has been a long-time fantasy of mine.
And it finally came true.
Yes.
That's another podcast.
Yes. Well, I am so thrilled. We were supposed to do this last season, or
this is last year,
a couple or something like that. We were supposed to, and we weren't able to make it work. So I am thrilled that this is happening and that you're here. And we just watched Season 3, Episode 13, entitled "The Americanization of Miko." And I chose this episode specifically for you.
And why is that?
Because when it comes to Japanese culture and traditional values of Asian peoples,
sure,
you, Tim Williams, are
the penultimate authority.
The penultimate.
Well,
yeah. Or it also might have been just the random episode that came up when you were here.
And I'm intrigued by the fact that it was number 13 because it was hardly unlucky at all.
And yes,
episode 13.
It was fine.
It was good.
Right before we started recording, you said it had been how long since you hadn't watched one in a long time.
I have not seen an episode of The Facts of Life in 30 years.
Easily.
Or more.
Okay. Did you watch it in the first run? You're a little younger than I am. So
I was 9 years old in 1982. This episode is from 82.
Early 82, yeah.
So I was 9.
Yeah.
And yes, I was a Different Strokes fan.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think I made the crossover quite as much as you did.
Yeah.
But I did see several episodes.
Yeah. I used to watch Different Strokes, and once Facts of Life happened, I think I slowly lost interest in Different Strokes. It was fine. It was fine, whatever it was. But
I watched it enough to know that Nancy McKeon was just gorgeous.
Oh, you were into, okay.
Oh, she was my favorite.
Tim,
such a crush on her.
You are in good company because there are, when I do ask my heterosexual guests, the few, the proud. There are not many of you.
Well, I'm glad that you assumed I'm heterosexual.
Exactly. I had hopes of doing some research later, but we'll get there. But as straight,
I'm fluid, David. I'm fluid.
and so we can talk about fluids later too. Absolutely. As a person who has heterosexual tendencies among the vast canvas of his experiences,
Yes.
it is surprising how many guys are into Nancy McKeon.
Oh, yeah.
The strong, they don't gravitate toward Blair the pretty one, which you would assume. They always gravitate toward the pragmatic, tough, realistic. Tell me more. Why?
Oh, yeah, she was the female Fonz.
Oh.
She was the female Fonz. She was just cool. And she God, I'm gonna start talking like I'm in an 80s sitcom. She had Mahtzee.
She had
Moxie is what I meant to say, not Mahtzee. Like
matzo
matzo
ball
bread.
soup.
Matzo.
No, she's Italian. She's not Jewish, Tim. If you were attracted to her Jewishness.
Oh God.
But no,
she had Moxie.
She absolutely, and that's a lot of guys are absolutely into that. So before we get into it, I do like to start by asking my guest if you would please, for the sake of synopsis, give us just a 1 to 2 sentence, quick elevator pitch, like what you would find in the TV guide listing. Give us a quick synopsis of what this episode was about.
Sure. This episode was about the girls trying to assimilate and Americanize their foreign exchange student friend, a young Japanese girl who did not sound like she was from Japan.
We'll talk about that.
And to the dismay of the Japanese girl's father, who did not approve of her Americanization, and while wanting to conduct business with America, did not approve of American culture and didn't want his daughter assimilated into it. And so, bad things happen. The father tries to pull her out of the school. You're coming back to Japan with me. No more of this America for you. And but he's convinced by Joe, that angel.
How befitting and yet unusual,
right? That that everything is fine, and that she is a beautiful, strong, independent young woman, and she'll be just fine, Dad. And it ends on a happy note.
It does.
That was more than 2 sentences.
That was. That's okay. I put you on the spot.
This is the TV guide Bible.
Yeah.
that I'm now.
Are you saying the
penning
Bible
for.
is long-winded, Tim Williams? How dare you? You're offending me and my heavily religious values.
Good.
As my 4s of listeners are well aware of. Yes, thank you for that. So we're ready to get going here with the synopsizing the episode, Tim.
I already did that, didn't I?
You did that, yes. But now, we are going to dive so
let's
deep.
do it.
We are going to put such a fine point on every little minute, every moment. So we start the episode with Natalie hurrying around the cafeteria, manically trying to clear the dishes.
Right.
And Tootie saying, "What are you hurrying for? There's no world record to be achieved or whatever."
I got to clean all these dishes
Because why,
Because
Tim?
of the concert.
Yeah,
I got to go to the rock concert.
The rock concert.
Because she likes to boogie woogie.
And
there's such a charm to that old comedy, that innocent old comedy.
Well, and
I got a boogie woogie.
Yeah, and that's such an old person. We joke about often on this show about the middle-aged vaudevillian writers who come up with these things because there is still such an influence of that in the 80s. And you know it's like, what's a funny word for the kids who like to... They like to boogie. Boogie's a funny word.
So true. Maybe that's why, even though Joe's Italian, maybe that's why I brought up Moxie. Moxie. I'm changing it to Matzoh.
A new word invented here, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't care what the Borscht Belt comedians and writers say. It's Matzoh.
Is Moxie?
It might be an Italian term.
I want to say I don't equate Moxie as being like a Yiddish or whatever.
Do you want to have why don't we have Google right here in front of us?
If only we had a device where we could learn all world knowledge and have it in our pockets.
Before the episode's out, let's look up the Moxie.
We could do it now. We could absolutely do it now. The
totally
etymology.
Bastardized.
Ladies and gentlemen, the etymology of the word Moxie. Now, if this were Jewish or spelled Yiddish, it would be chutzpah. That's the word that I think is the equivalent.
Chutzpah. And I just got phlegm all over the mic screen.
Would you clean that before you go, please? Oh, it's Moxie with an I-E. That's the problem.
M-O-X-I-E.
With an I. With a Y. Okay.
But what about Mahtzee?
Mahtzee.
I'm not going to let it go.
There is a young Jewish child whose mother, a flat-chested little Jewish girl.
Yes.
Because her boobs were as flat as a piece of matzah. She called her Mahtzee. You know that exists somewhere in this world. If it doesn't, we need to make it so.
That's great.
Oh, trademark for a soft drink with a strong flavor.
Really?
The word Moxie did come from the soda. Isn't language and evolution thereof fascinating?
It is fascinating, and that explains a lot about Jo. She's got a lot of intense flavor, I think, on the palate.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Natalie says, I was born boogieing.
Yeah.
And Tootie says, that must have been a difficult childbirth. But there's your joke.
Set up the
punchline.
Punchline.
Exactly. Well, no sooner do we learn that there is this rock concert happening this evening. Natalie is in a hurry to get her homework done to be able to go to the rock concert.
That's right.
In comes Blair and this new girl, Miko. And we have never seen Miko before, and yet she is very, very friendly with these girls. She is close enough with them that she and Blair go shopping together. And
Blair is giving her a makeover.
And Blair's basically, And the actress playing her, did you recognize the actress?
I did not.
That is Lauren Tom.
Lauren Tom from?
Friends.
No way.
Remember when Ross and Rachel were about to get together and Rachel went to the airport to meet Ross to tell him, okay, let's do this.
Let's do it.
And he comes back with the new girlfriend named Julie.
And that's Lauren Tom.
That was Lauren Tom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is a pre-Friends Lauren Tom. And she does have other credits, but that's her biggest thing that people would recognize her from.
Doing an authentic Japanese accent is not one of them.
Well, the problem being is that Lauren Tom is a Chinese American.
Oh!
So
I bet the Asian watchers weren't too pleased about that.
Well, back in those days, we're lucky that they had Asian people playing Asian people.
Exactly right.
And
But that was one of that's one of the things that struck me while watching it. I thought, why she's not American. She's Japanese.
Yeah.
She was born and raised in Japan.
She's
just
been
visiting.
Here 6 weeks.
That's right. She's visiting, but she has a decidedly very, not Valley Girl, but it's a very cute, very,
completely
Americanized.
Yeah, Americanized. It's not.
Hi.
It's not. It's not. You speak the language well. It's like you're a fucking American.
You're an American.
Yeah. There was no, probably the standard would be like courtship of Eddie's father. Mr. Eddie's father. I am so glad that we have time to pierce the ears.
Right.
And that's, I think, where it could have gone, and probably better that it didn't.
And probably better that it didn't. Yeah.
Very better. Because we have her dad to cover the Asian accent coming up. And that is authentic, by the way. We'll get there. So the big reveal, not only have they been buying things, but Blair and Miko got their ears pierced. And
what?
I remember in the 80s when my sister got her ears pierced. Like, I remember, we're so fucking, we were talking about how fucking old we are. Mm-hmm. And you think
you were talking about that. I don't remember anything about that.
You were saying nothing. No, of course you weren't. Yes. Pick that up, Tim. Your face just fell. Now, but the thing of, I'm like, oh, that's right. When one was a teenager, it was a big deal to get your ears pierced. Like, that was a rite of passage.
It was a rite of passage.
And did you ever pierce your ears?
I did. I pierced one ear.
Me too.
When I was 18, as soon as I left the house and
went
to Tallahassee.
Yeah, like right before I moved to Florida. Yeah, same here. That was a thing. And of course, left ear. So they don't think I'm a queer or nothing.
I did my left ear.
God
that's right.
forbid. But yeah, it's kind of one of those like, oh yeah, that's a big deal. So then, let us consider. Blair says that she got her ears pierced also. Like this was a thing they did together. Blair Warner does not have pierced ears. She is 17 years old. She has lived at Saks Fifth Avenue and Bloomingdale's. Right. She is a self-proclaimed fashion plate.
Wasn't the rite of passage though for like 12 when you're 12 or 13 you get your ears pierced? Yeah.
Like I feel like this is late.
I that's what I thought, and in fact I wrote in my notes she got her ears pierced? Question mark.
Yeah.
Why is that? At 17, 18, that doesn't.
Yeah. Now, if Blair
a female, I guess.
And the interesting thing is that Miko had them pierced twice. That was a new kind of scandalous thing in the 80s. Was the punk culture was coming in, and safety pins and pierced noses. It was like it was like our society was coming to a fucking end.
It was.
And
fraying.
Yeah. The 80s. Oh, those tumultuous 80s.
Tumultuous 80s.
Yeah. But so she got her ears pierced twice. They make a big deal out of she gets 2.
What did he say?
Ears.
Her father? Did they make a mistake?
Did they miss the first time?
Did they miss the first time? That's what it was.
But there is a sense of, wow, that is jumping in the deep end, girl.
Yeah.
Now, had Blair said, I got mine pierced for the second time, but Blair was acting like it was her first. Like
it was her first time.
I just find that hard to believe. That's really crazy. I imagine Blair, like you say, 12 or 13 or earlier. I figure her mother would have been dressing her up in Pretty Girl.
I wonder if that was another thing that the writers actually sat around and debated. Like, we need something a little, not incendiary, but we need something a little controversial that these teenagers would do. So beyond. I mean, something other than having a tattoo.
Yeah. Oh, true.
Right? I don't think that would have come up. Mm-hmm. Blair and Miko walk in with a tattoo on a Tramp stamp. I'm sorry.
Oh, dear.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they would have gotten letters. The network would have gotten fucking letters.
So I think they said, well, okay, they pierced their ears.
Yeah. And
have you gone back and looked at earlier episodes and seen if Blair had earrings?
One would think that I would have, but I have not.
Speaking of what these beautiful women were wearing, Miko had on a members-only jacket.
You commented, you reacted to that. Tell me about the members-only jacket.
Members-only was when I was in junior high, and even earlier when I was in the 5th grade, 6th grade. Members-only was that. Talk about a rite of passage.
Oh yeah,
that was such a status symbol.
Oh yeah,
and. Oh, it's so sad too when I think about it too. It was that upper middle class because they were expensive.
Yeah,
members only jackets were expensive.
They were like $30.
I wanted one so bad, and I don't think my parents really wanted to afford one.
Yeah.
I think I eventually got one. Maybe by the time I was 13. I know I was in junior high when I had one, but it was a big deal. I thought they were great.
I think I had a knockoff. Like by the time I got to high school, but I was never.
Maybe mine was a knockoff.
Yeah,
it might have been.
There were a lot of them, but the big thing was it was the jacket with the banded collar with that long strip that snapped over that you never snapped. No, never. No. Cool people don't snap their fucking collar.
Right.
And then it had the weird epaulets and the little bands, like the little. It was like a watch band on your shoulder.
You know why I liked them so much? Because I was a Star Trek fan.
Oh,
I was a huge Star Trek fan, and especially once Star Trek 2, well, the Next Generation, but even before that, Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, you're right.
Their uniforms were very. Nicholas Meyer, who directed the movie, made it very Navy. It was it sort of had this naval theme to it, like even more so than the TV.
Yeah, more militaristic
naval as opposed to the television show, and they all had they all wore uniforms that kind of looked like members only jackets.
Yeah, they were tailored better.
So I want one of those so I could be Captain James T. Kirk.
And also we will say the fabric was sort of not quite the same burgundy as the Eastland burgundy.
Right.
It was more of an 80s grayish toned down burgundy, but it was that polished cotton that was brand new, that had never existed before. And it is cotton, but to the outside viewer, unless you walk up and touch it, it looks like leather.
Yeah.
It was like magic on your body.
The future.
Yeah. It was, somehow they figured out a way to give it a sheen. And
they had to remember the jackets that like Don Johnson wore on Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Same thing. That the same kind of polished cotton.
When it wasn't just that canvasy white.
Right.
Because of Miami, it's fucking hot down there. Who wears a jacket that's, made of anything heavier than gauze?
Right.
Kind of a sort of a thing. So, yes, you did comment out loud about the
great.
members only. You were like, oh my God. So another lovely tip of the hat to her being Americanized, wearing that jacket. And then she proceeds to unzip the jacket, and she has gone, how much does Miko love America? She has an I Heart
New York
shirt, which was a fairly new campaign. That was a late 70s, early 80s thing.
Yeah.
That was an Ed Koch. That was kind of what turned the tides from the 70s when...
During the huge recession.
Terrible. Yeah, the 70s recession. Right. The 80s was a little
when New York was begging to be bailed out. Of bankruptcy. And it was a mess.
And there is a commercial somewhere, I remember, that... It was just all famous people singing, I love New York. And one of them was the cast of Evita. It was Patti LuPone and Mandy Patinkin. And Evita was running on Broadway 80. I think it opened in 79.
Yes, it did.
79. So 79, 80, 81. So I Love New York was still only a couple years new. I Heart NY as a design was not a thing before this period of time. People kind of might think that it's always been there, but that was a specifically targeted marketing campaign that thankfully worked. So in addition, have we driven home the point that Miko is Americanizing herself? Oh, no, we have not. She bought a fuck ton of cosmetics. She is wearing makeup and...
$38 worth?
$38.
The natural look.
Another funny,
Yeah.
Yep. So in comes Joe, and Joe has her helmet on and her. Now Joe only wears like a denim jacket.
She didn't have her helmet on.
She didn't.
No.
Why did Miko have the helmet later when the dad came in? Was it
she was carrying the helmet. I think she was carrying the helmet. Yeah.
Anyway, Joe comes in, and this is the point when Miko makes it very clear that for all of this shit, the one I want to be like is Joe.
Oh, yes.
And Joe is my ideal of a true American beauty.
Oh, much to Blair's consternation.
And
they played that up huge.
Yeah. And Blair said, I can't believe it. Blair basically was like, I'm sitting here.
I thought the same thing. All of her lines were literally, I'm sitting right here.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah. And but when she says true American beauty, Blair and Tootie bust out laughing in Joe's face. They're like, a true American, what? Which is when Joe's opportunity to go, I'm standing right here.
Right.
And you're insulting me to my fucking face.
Yeah, they were being really catty, weren't they?
Yeah. But then very quickly, the comic timing, though, of these girls cannot be underplayed or underappreciated.
Estimated.
Because when they're laughing, this big burst of sustained laughter, when Joe walks over and just glares at Blair and their eyes meet, Blair does this perfectly timed, it's an interesting concept.
Right. And
that is, the timing of all the girls is so exceptional when the jokes are well written.
Right.
And we have a lot of Mrs. Garrett fun happening later. So, okay.
Yeah, it's funny, real quick, funny you mentioned the timing because I found it. I forgot how, and speaking of the old Borscht Belt humor, the vaudeville, the writing that permeated the Catskills.
Yeah.
It just permeated all of the sitcoms from All in the Family and just all of them from the 60s to 70s and even into the 80s. There was a pacing that does not exist anymore, and it just reminded me of how fast comedies are now. Everything we watch now, because of our attention spans, everything is so quick and just rapid fire. But there, you could breathe between all of the jokes. You could even breathe between the setup and the punchline.
Yeah,
like you can't do now.
Well, here's the thing.
It struck me. It was really cool.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're reinforcing that I've said many times is the Facts of Life was still in the era of the sitcom that only had one story. There was no A story, B story.
That's right.
You watch Friends. They had 6 main characters plus guests. You would often have 3, A, B, and C. Seinfeld was the same way. Seinfeld became, like a breakneck, like farcical because things had to happen and intermingle so quickly.
I'm going to have an Oreo.
You do that. And
So what happened next?
well, Tim,
Did we get to the Stray Cats? They're going to the Stray Cats concert.
I couldn't
The
wait
man
to do
with
this.
the green hair.
Yes. So
Who eats his guitar. What?
well, okay, we'll get there. We'll
Okay,
get there.
all right.
So the last word on Joe and Miko's worship thereof is that, and you get it. She says Joe is such a free spirit. She's such a symbol of independence, riding off on her bike, and you think about it, she is. She's the only one of them who has transportation that can go places and do things and function in a semi-adult manner, and so that's why Miko looks up to her, and you're like, yeah, I totally see it. Well then, ding dong, surprise, in walks Miko's dad, Mr. Wakamatsu. They did not pull any punches with saying, let's get a complicated Japanese name. Mr. Wakamatsu, played by the Japanese actor Mako is his name, Mako.
Was he in Lethal Weapon or something like that? Or I'm thinking of some...
He was in the
80s
original.
movie?
He was in the original Broadway cast of Pacific Overtures.
Oh, okay.
That's
wow.
him in the original Stephen Sondheim musical, and
he is pissed.
he is. But I'm not sure that he's pissed, but They have set up. There are so many times people try to make jokes with him, and they clearly set up that he is a humorless man.
Right, he's a robot.
Stern, yes.
Domo arigato, Mr.
Roboto, domo.
Domo. Really? Yeah, he's kind of cold.
Yeah, I would have loved when Blair said "Ohayo gozaimasu, Mr. Wakamatsu," which is Japanese. It would have been even nicer if she said Wakamatsu-san, which is how you say Mr. in Japanese.
Okay.
But the fact that Blair greets him in his language and he says, "Oh, you have been to Japan," and just Blair just shrugs and rolls her eyes and says, I've been everywhere. And we both laughed out loud.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Yes. We learned that he is here for some type of a business meeting. He works for this company called the Kajura Corporation. I'm assuming it's Kajura. And the only allusion to what the Kajura Corporation does is that Mrs. Garrett later does say, my trash compactor is a Kajura.
That's right.
And it works most of the time.
Most of the time.
And bearing in mind, this is the 80s. This was the big Japanese invasion in manufacturing.
Oh, absolutely.
We didn't have the scene in Back to the Future 2 when they're removing a broken part of the DeLorean, and young Doc Brown says, "Well, of course this piece broke. It was made in Japan." And Marty from 1985 is like, "No, Doc, all the good stuff comes from Japan."
Yeah.
And we were just on the dawn.
The Toshibas and
the vehicles, like that was already starting in the 70s.
oh, absolutely. The Toyotas and the Yamahas and the Hondas and all of it. Yeah,
Mitsubishi. Yeah, that was a big thing. So in spite of his humorlessness, he has brought a gift for his daughter, and he's brought her another brand new phenomenon that was culturally still kind of just breaking into being ubiquitous, was a Walkman. A Walkman, a personal cassette. It was a cassette one.
Yep.
CDs didn't exist. But the idea of a little tiny cassette recorder that you could wear headphones and listen to your own music.
That's right. And put it on your hip.
And on your hip. It wasn't a big stereo system you had to plug your headphones into and sit next to your record player. That was a big deal. I remember when that all started and the Walkman became a big thing. But naturally, putting the headphones on her, what does he see? A pierced tears.
Oh, that's right.
And that's when he's like, what has happened to your... I'm doing a terrible... let's get it out of the way. I'm doing a terrible Japanese accent.
It's okay.
This is a terrible impression of Mako in this role. And this is just how he talks. And if I'm doing a shitty job, please know it is a lack of talent, not a lack of compassion for our Asian brothers and sisters. But that's where it comes in. Your ears are pierced. And she's like, yeah. He goes, twice. Did they miss the first time? And pretty funny.
But, he does that 2 or 3 times, though, David. He makes these, again, the Borscht Belt jokes that a humorless robotic man would never make. So when they come out of his mouth, they seem Well, it seems like it's coming out of the pen of one of the writers in the back room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was a little weird.
Yeah, because the writing was not sharp enough to be that, oh, well, he comes in and he's very stern in business and by the book, but he has a softer side. And we start to reveal that. We don't really ever get that. He's a two-dimensional character.
Absolutely.
And
he's a Japanese businessman that thinks American culture is crap.
Yeah. Written by American writers who think all Japanese people are business robots.
Sure, who want to take over our country.
Yeah, and they did.
All the writers also fought in World War II. I'm just going to point that out as well. Just making that observation.
True.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Yes.
It's interesting because I'm trying to think. I only know a couple of people who are of Japanese descent, and I'm not close enough with them that I would have brought them here. I don't know that that's is that an American thing? The whole idea of, oh, well, Asian culture is deeply steeped in tradition and values and rules and all that stuff. Is that really the truth, or is that just kind of what we think of it as? Did that come out of thin air, or is it based on truth?
That's actually a great point. I think there is a bit of truth behind that, and probably pre-World War II. I think even more so.
Oh God, yes.
Probably pre-World War II. Yeah, their culture was a little more strict, and still is. I think their culture still is more strict and disciplined than ours.
Yeah.
In fact, the American invasion over there is of hamburgers, McDonald's, a lot of our food and fast food that they've assimilated into their culture. It has given rise to a lot of health problems that they never had before.
Oh, I believe it.
In their teenagers that they never really experienced before. Yeah, I mean, they have their own. I'm sure they have their own version of rebelling teenagers, and it's just like any culture.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. It's probably driven or played up a little more through our eyes.
I don't know, and I wish
I don't know. These writers seem to be steeped in a lot of boogie woogie.
I don't.
You know.
Yeah. Hey, at least at no point there was no joke where the word Jap was in it.
Oh God.
And it would not have shocked me. It would not have shocked me if it was somewhere somehow an innocent joke made with that in there.
Well, I will say this though. We've been bashing on the writers a little, and I actually made a note about this, and I thought I'd bring it up. The show on a whole, and it was in the scene that we're talking about right now. The show on a whole was very self-aware of the entitlement of American youth. And American culture. It was still aware of it. Now, it was being seen through the eyes of this robotic, disapproving Japanese father, but still, that means the writers also knew that there was still a bit of self-awareness, that we're perhaps a little spoiled, that we don't live the way most countries live. Yeah,
and these girls certainly going to a private school.
Absolutely. I thought that was a little. It was kind of ahead of its time in the sense that it was socially conscious, at least. Also, the issues of, I mean, come on, just having those four free thinking. I mean, they're clearly stereotypes or archetypes. But we've got, four smart, free-thinking, independent women.
Quintessentially American.
Yeah.
Quintessentially benefiting from all the privileges, all the good things that white people with wealth, well, Tootie also.
Yeah.
But
it was
you're right. There
ahead of its time in that sense, and I think at one point too, he brings up the father brings up, he says something very chauvinistic, and Charlotte Ray says, women, so it was, so dropping in hints of feminism even in '82, in the show, it was good. Yeah. God, where are we? We're only in the first 3 minutes.
I know,
of the
really,
damn
this
episode.
is terrible. This is terrible.
God,
this is terrible in the most beautiful way in all the world. So it is revealed they're all going to this rock concert, this concert that Natalie has been talking about. Well, it's a concert they're all going to. They're taking a bus into the city, and they're going to this concert. And he says something like, well, you need to change your clothes. That's not appropriate attire for...
the jeans.
The jeans are not appropriate. And he says something like, the conductor of the concert would certainly not appreciate you wearing jeans.
The conductor.
And she's like, no, it's not a classical music concert. It's a rock concert. And he's like, what do you mean a rock concert? And Mrs. Garrett says, the lead singer has green hair.
It's a good Charlotte Rae.
And thank you. You were doing one earlier, and I expect you to do it on... Everyone on this show is invited to join me and do their bad Charlotte Rae when you are inspired when it happens.
All right.
The lead singer has green hair.
Oh.
And then it's like, what? And they say, oh, it's a new wave group. When you heard the word new wave.
New wave.
82. Oh, my God.
Well, what cracked me up was they said new wave. David, follow me here. They said new wave, and they followed new wave with Stray Cats.
The Stray Cats.
What? The furthest thing from new wave.
I remember once.
They're freaking rockabilly pop.
Yeah, and I remember like a documentary in the 80s of them saying, and here's more new wave music, and it was Cheap Trick singing
Right.
I Want You to Want Me.
Right.
I'm like, that's not new wave. I think that there were just some people who couldn't think in narrow strokes, and the broad strokes was, if it isn't disco, it's new wave.
Right.
Any other form of music that is breaking from this horrible trend of disco that's been plaguing our radio airwaves. That was the sentiment at the time.
Right. You mean the writers who were all born in 1930?
Ding, ding, ding. You are correct, Tim Williams. You win a prize. Have another Oreo. So thank you. My sound engineer thanks you. And that's me.
Oh boy.
So, and then it's like, then they say, and then, isn't that the one who eats the lead singer eats his guitar. And then says, he doesn't eat his guitar. He chews it a little bit. Do the Stray Cats eat or chew on their guitars too?
I kept trying to
I am
think.
not as well versed in their music as you are.
I love the Stray Cats.
That's why I invited you to this episode.
But I was trying
because of the Stray Cat. That's it.
Thanks.
I retroactively make that my reason.
And now I won't be able to remember a thing about any of their songs or videos. And that's the thing. I kept going back into the Rolodex of my mind and thinking MTV, Stray Cats.
Yeah, this is
Did they ever
pre-MTV.
eat? This is pre-MTV.
Pre-MTV,
But
girl.
Stray Cats were a staple on MTV. There are the fluids.
There they are. Yes. We'll make more. Mrs. Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so then Mrs. Garrett invites him into the kitchen for a cup of coffee.
The facts of life. The facts of life.
There it is. Oh, it was beautiful.
Thank you.
We've had a long-standing issue with coffee on this show. In the parlor, which we did not see in this episode, other than when Miko was on the phone.
Right.
The payphone's in the parlor. We didn't really see it. There is a big coffee vending machine from 1961, I think. Like the ones where the cup drops down and the liquid.
Sure.
So they have a coffee machine. You'll notice in the set, in the background, on the back wall of the cafeteria, there are these gigantic tureens that are coffee. They have the tube. So they're these big things that are clearly for dispensing coffee. And we're like, this is a girls' school. This is high school. Did they serve coffee at your high school to the students? I don't think so.
They did not.
That was a grown-up drink.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's
They didn't
probably
to us in
different.
1988.
No. And I graduated 86. So, no. Coffee was what your parents drank. Kids didn't drink coffee. But Mrs. Garrett saying, come into the kitchen for a cup of coffee. It's like, really? Don't have enough in these silos over here? And you don't have any we're just like, there's a lot of coffee for a show that is in a place where coffee should not be a big deal. Just saying. And then when he leaves to go into the kitchen...
Podcast has been brought to you by Folgers.
Folgers Crystals.
Folgers Crystals.
Mountain grown. And freeze dried to taste like shit.
And Moxie.
and Tim Williams Mahtzees. They're the Matzahs with Moxie. I can't. My voice is so shot, and even on my best day, I cannot do your brilliant Tim Williams announcer voice. I wish I had those pipes. But so that is when he leaves. Is when Miko says he's mad. He's really mad. They're like, he didn't seem that mad. No, he was. I know.
mad.
I inherently, the way he looked at me, he is pissed.
That's what I was telling you. He might have seen Robotic, but he was angry.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're in the kitchen, and Mrs. Garrett is talking with Mr. What is his name? Wakamatsu. And
Speaking
they're just
of a lack of respect and ignorance, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So they're kind of shooting the breeze, and there's another point where she makes a little joke, and he responds nothing. And then there's talk about, she says something like, oh, that's a business management thing. He says, stop popping in on workers in the factory. And she says, or your daughter while she's at school. Mm-hmm. That's a business management ring of quality. Or she throws out some, I don't think, real business philosophy term.
That she learned from 60 Minutes and not from business school.
And then he says, did you go to business school? Mm-hmm. And if she had said so, that would have been consistent because Mrs. Garrett has had 47 careers, we've learned. But no, she says she learned it from 60.
From 60 Minutes. From 60 Minutes.
Never stop doing her. Please, Tim. Never stop.
I love Charlotte, right?
And so it was kind of I forget how it comes to it, but she was like, well, not everything in America is bad. And he's like, Americans do two things well. Hamburgers.
And they're the second best. Baseball.
Second best at baseball. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, okay, hamburgers. Yeah, hamburger is technically what's considered under the category of an American food. Mm-hmm. But, newsflash, hamburger is a German food. Hamburger, as in from the place called Hamburg.
Hamburger. Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, or like wiener or wiener dog, or people say, they use the term wiener. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, it's Wiener, meaning from Vienna. It's a Vienna sausage, a Wiener.
Well, we've done that with hamburgers. We've done that with spaghetti, which everybody thinks is Italian, but was actually Asian. And we've done that with pizza.
Pizza. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Again, this is the inappropriate cultural appropriation.
Absolutely.
Inappropriation. There it is.
I love it.
You're welcome, America.
There was always Gilbert and Sullivan and operettas, and then we had musical theater.
Yep.
But you know what? That brings up a bit, and maybe today more than ever, it's important. This idea of pizza and hamburger and even musical theater, all these things being quintessentially quote unquote American.
Yeah. We made them. Yeah.
Yes. And why not? Because America is immigrants.
Yeah.
America is Europe. America is every culture from all over the world. So, of course, our culture is going to be this mishmash and this amalgamation of...
apple pie. That's French, that's Dutch, that's everything. Yeah. That's from all over Europe. Apple pie existed long before America
So,
did.
I don't know. I guess I'm saying, especially now in this discussion of go back to the country you've come from and white nationalism and no immigrants and build the wall. It's like, no. Yeah. Everything that you think is quintessentially American is universal. It's the world, man. Mm-hmm. We are a mixed salad.
Yep.
And our culture is just, even if it's not appropriated, it's just sort of, it's brought over by hardworking, lovely people who changed it into something quite unique.
Yeah. And
so there's that was my soapbox.
That was your soapbox speech, yeah. Do you need to refill your water?
Yeah, I do.
So the last moment in the kitchen is the only moment that they give Mr. W. I'm just going to call him Mr. W. I don't have the time or the energy to pronounce that name the rest of the day.
So disrespectful.
And
to that made-up Japanese name.
Yes. And so she says, Mrs. Garrett says, you can't just raise children like they're on an assembly line for cars and at the end say, oh, here's the Toyotas. We are driven. Which was a slogan of the time.
Yes, it was, but not.
And then he corrects her and
Toyotas.
Says, he says, we do not believe in that. And he says, no, Mrs. Garrett, you are wrong. And she says, oh, and he says, yes, we are driven. It's Datsun. Toyota is, oh, what a feeling. Throwing his hands up in the air. And there's suddenly this moment of fancy and lightheartedness. And you're like, what is happening? And we never see this again.
Did she slip him something? That's what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That there are moments where he is this two-dimensional character, literally two dimensions. He's the voice, he's the mouthpiece of stern father, and oppressive Japanese culture, or he's just this comic that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. I agree.
They
weird. Could have integrated that.
It was weird. On second thought, David, this was a weird episode. I don't approve.
Miko decides she is going to go to the concert anyway, against her father's wishes. End of scene. Then we go up to the bedroom. And they're hanging out. And the concert's already happened. They've all had a good time. And in a conversation with Joe and Miko, Miko's like, so can I drive your bike? I want to drive your bike. I want to ride your motorcycle. And Joe is like, no. It's my baby. We know that Joe and the relationship with her bike is special. We haven't gone there much the last few episodes. It was nice to kind of re-strengthen that. And then we have Natalie coming in on her Walkman. And I'm a middle-aged vaudevillian writer. What do the kids listen to on the radio? Mama, mama, mama. It's like...
It was... Listen, she only did two things this entire episode. And both of them were going, oh, baby, mama, mama, I'm boogie-woogie.
I'm boogieing, we have to pause 1 second. Way back at the beginning, very first scene when she was cleaning up.
Yes.
Never a fat joke about Natalie. But when she was quickly cleaning up the dishes, what did she do? Ooh, perfectly good cookie. Oh, and eats the fucking cookie.
Yes.
Yeah, their loophole to, we never did a fat joke about Natalie or Mindy Cohn. It's like always a food joke. But yeah, so Natalie is just boogieing around on the Walkman, singing loudly to herself this neutral, nondescript Mama, Mama, Mama song.
Right.
Is there a song from 1982, Tim Williams, that you can... from the pantheon of American pop culture music that had lyric, Mama, Mama, Mama.
1982, not so much. The only thing I can think of right off the top of my head with Mama, Mama, Mama is Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, Mama just killed a man.
Right, but she didn't go into the just killed a man.
No, we didn't put the gun against his head.
No.
But again, Boogie and Mama, those are 1970s.
Boogie.
A Boogie Mama. That's a 70s term. These are the when I was at the discotheque 10 years ago, when I was 40, it's like, anyway, it is what it is. And then Mrs. Garrett comes in and another laugh where she comes in and says, Natalie, you need to get downstairs. And Natalie interrupts it with a, hey, mama, 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 again.
Right.
It was a funny moment. It was funny. But
Charlotte Rae did a Mama, Mama, Mama too.
Oh, that's right. And then she says, and then she grabs, that's right. And then she grabs the earphones and is like, would you get downstairs? And then her exit line, Mama, Mama.
Mama, Mama, Mama.
Yeah, there it is.
Like she knew what she was listening to. Well, I guess she heard her say Mama, Mama, Mama. Yeah.
Nothing funnier than a middle-aged woman trying to sing like a young person, I guess. There's the comedy. And she also is coming in to tell Miko that she has a phone call. Miko goes downstairs, cut to Miko on the payphone. She is distraught. Why? But father, you can't make me leave. It's clear her dad's pulling her out of the school.
Of course he is.
Yep. And then we go back up to the bedroom, and Joe is up there with, I think, Tootie and Mrs. Garrett?
Yes.
At which point Tootie says, oh, Joe, you did let Miko ride your bike. And Joe is like, what?
Because she's looking out the window.
She's looking out the window. So the big reveal is that Miko has taken off on Joe's bike.
Yep.
And she says, oh, there go was it her marigolds?
Yeah, it was some flower.
Some flower.
She destroys the flower bed because she doesn't know how to ride the bike.
And Mrs. Garrett says, again? And you laughed.
Oh, because I don't know. It was just, I loved it.
Here's the funny thing about it.
She's destroyed your marigolds. Again? I mean, it was perfect.
I'm wondering if that's a throwback to the very first episode that Joe was in, when Joe first rode up in her bike. And she says, that's my bike out there. And Mrs. Garrett says, oh, and it's parked in my marigold.
That's what it is.
So that's got to be. It's an allusion to season 2, episode 1. So I assume that's what it is. So all we hear, so Joe runs downstairs, and you hear the sound of a motorcycle, and Joe runs downstairs, and somehow somebody says, Joe, are you sure that that's your motorcycle? And Joe turns back over her shoulder and says, a mother knows. Beautifully delivered.
It's another laugh out loud.
Beautiful.
Moment.
So, and the last thing is you just hear Joe yelling, Miko, no, and you hear motorcycle sounds, and Tootie looks at Mrs. Garrett and shrugs and goes, sayonara. Cue the clap track. Mm-hmm. That's the end of the episode. Miko has taken off on Joe's bike. Okay, so now this is where I like to get to know my guest a little better. Tim Williams.
Yes.
Think of this as your Inside the Actor Studio interview. Mm-hmm. Where were you born?
Lakeland, Florida.
And where did you study the art of acting and performance?
At Winter Haven Community Theater, at the Pied Piper Players and Lakeland Community Theater, at Lakeland High School, and then the University of Central Florida, where I graduated with a BA in theater arts.
Wow. I'm going to say you and I had known you before we worked together. Mm-hmm. I was a tremendous fan because you are one of the you're one of those Shakespearean actors. You have a very incredible affinity for performing the works of Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. And whenever I saw you, back when I was just a fanboy, I was like, he looks like he's just speaking everyday conversation. You make Shakespeare sound natural, that it's not florid language or whatever. You make it so natural seeming. So I was already a fanboy, and then you and I did an audition together. We were auditioning for a Fringe show. You had already been cast, and I was reading for a role opposite you. And I was like, oh my God, I'm reading with someone else. I don't know. Is there dirt under his feet that I could crawl under? Because that's where I feel like I belong right now. And the greatest thing a person can ask for is a great scene partner. Yeah. And being nervous at an audition and reading, and it was a good script. It was Matador, Christian Kelty's Matador. Right. Yeah. I looked into your eyes in the audition, and it was, I have everything I need right now to do this scene. Oh. So having a scene partner where, it just felt so natural. It was a kind of a deep, heavy confessional scene of two brothers, kind of bearing their souls to each other. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, that felt so easy. He made it so easy to do that. That wasn't. It's.
Well, that's a great compliment. Thank you. That means a lot.
It's a completely abstract concept of. It is just a testament to your talent. Your talent is this thing that is. It's out in the ether. It's in your aura.
There's something they call the same idea as stage presence. When they say so and so has stage presence. Yeah. And that's something too that I'm not sure is cultivated or even learned. It's just a
you got it or you don't. And comedy's the same way. We've talked about. Yes. I mostly have comedic actors here, yourself absolutely included. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's like trying to teach. I think Joey Anderson said you can't teach funny. Either you get it or you don't. The timing of these jokes and all that. But you are. Somebody once said, I believe it was Christian Damon, who started calling you Orlando's own Tim Williams. Yes. Because you are really, really in, I think, the highest echelon of talented actors. Like, if you can use this person, use him. If he's in a show, it's going to be great. I'm sorry to be waxing your car this much. This can get embarrassing. I know.
Sorry. No,
I just want to make it clear that there was a time I didn't know that I could inhabit the same space as you, the same room as you. And
we've ended up working together for years.
And then we ended up working together.
And I directed you. And you Sunday in the Park with George.
Directed me in Sunday in the Park with George. We acted together in Laughter on the 23rd Floor. Mm-hmm. been on stage.
Oh my gosh, you were in my the Macy's
Miracle on 34th
you were
Street.
in Miracle on 34th
Yes!
Street.
You've directed me twice.
Yeah, I forgot about that show. Oh, I loved you in that show too. I thought you were fantastic. So what happened next?
I think I've waxed your car enough that I am so thrilled
You've waxed
to call
my car
you
enough that the fluids are
the
spilling
fluids,
out
the
of it.
waxing, and the fluids. We
You
have
know what
a
I mean?
lot to do. Oh yeah. So thank you for being here, bottom line. And it is very cool that I
great.
consider you not just a colleague, but also a friend. Because there was a time you were an untouchable deity.
Oh, well, for heaven's sake.
But thank God I got to know you, and I don't feel that way about you anymore. Or was that, okay, that didn't come out right. That came out very...
It's perfectly true.
Quickly. Just one more thing. I demand this. Name a commercial from the era. Boom. A commercial that you associate with your childhood or with this show. Any commercial, a vintage commercial.
Squeeze the shaman.
Or please don't squeeze the shaman.
Oh, that's what it is. During the daytime when I'd stay home from school, I was watching my mom's stories, which were a guiding light and Days of Our Lives.
Stories. I love that people. I'm from New England. We never call them stories. That is such a Southern thing.
And so there, Don't Squeeze the Charmin was huge. I mean, that was.
Oh yeah, it was a big.
Huge.
Yeah, that was a huge campaign. Absolutely, and no one has said that one before on this show. Awesome. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So let us come back from our commercial now. We have learned that the bike is severely damaged. Miko,
squeeze the Charmin; it'll give you Mahtzee.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Moving on.
God, we got to move on.
Yep. Miko shows up without the bike, and Joe is like, "Where is the bike?" And Miko's basically, Miko's like, "I wrecked the bike. I took it to a shop." And
$462 for bike repairs.
Yeah. Do you know how much that is in
I was going to ask, do you know?
I looked it up.
Awesome.
$462 worth of damage to the motorcycle would be the equivalent of $1,226.30.
Holy shit.
Today in August of 2019.
That's a lot of money.
That's $1,200 of damage. Like that's for a
almost
car.
That's almost a total for a motorcycle.
Yeah. I mean,
for a cheap motorcycle,
Yeah. If your car needed $1,200 worth of work, I'd be like, fuck.
Yeah, it's awful.
So, yeah, totally. Miko says she's very, very sorry.
But she can get the parts wholesale in Japan. No, she does not say that. She does not.
Racist. But
only against Asians.
But Mrs. Garrett does glean that Miko ran off because her father was taking her out of the school. That now becomes known and knowledge about them. Miko says her father will probably pay for it, so Joe is still very, very sad. Next scene, we start with a gigantic sandwich. It's Miko's last meal, so they're building her a Dagwood. A Dagwood sandwich. Tim, would you please explain where the term Dagwood sandwich comes from for our listeners under the age of 70?
Yeah, Dagwood is from the Archie comics, correct? Am I correct in saying no?
Nope. Dagwood, Jughead was the one who ate the big sandwiches.
Oh, okay.
In that thing. Dagwood
so
is
what's the Dagwood?
Dagwood is the comic strip Blondie. Blondie.
Oh, yes.
Blondie's husband is Dagwood.
Yes.
And kind of like the Joey Tribbiani equivalent. Joey on Friends loved a sandwich, and Dagwood loved a big sandwich.
And
it was
piled
thick.
high with tons of meat and cheese, layer after layer after layer, with a piece of bread and then another. It's almost like 3 stacked sandwiches.
Yeah, it's huge.
Right.
It is.
That's right, Blondie.
Blondie.
How could I forget? I used to watch Hagar the Horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Blondie. Circus.
Beetle Bailey. Family Circus.
Beetle Bailey.
Sunday Comics.
Oh, yeah.
Were
absolutely.
the shit, man.
Huge.
They were like the television of paper. I don't know what that means.
It was awesome.
Don't snark.
That's a great drop.
Yeah.
The television of paper. Okay.
So when Mrs. Garrett and I think it's Tootie are making the sandwich, Mrs. Garrett says, "Well, maybe we can convince him otherwise if we can just be reasonable and sit down and communicate." And then Mr. W shows up.
Right.
And he's like,
he communicates.
And he communicates, "I'm taking my daughter back." And she's like, "Well, maybe we could." He's like, "Nope, taking her back. Yeah. My mind is set." And she says, "Yeah, your mind is set in concrete." So then Joe walks in, not realizing he's sitcom trope.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
talking freely about something, and a
they're
person
right
standing there
behind them,
She
yeah.
says, well, Miko really did do a number, and they're at the bike shop, and they need their money, yada, yada. And he's like, what did Miko do about your bike? What are you talking about? She's like, well, here's the thing. She damaged my bike, and this is what the bill is. So at that time, Miko and the other girls come down from the bedroom, and he says, I'm sure I will pay for this. He calmly says, I will pay for it. And he says, Miko, I'm sure you're very ashamed for what you've done. That's a very Japanese word. Ashamed.
Or at least we think it is, right?
Yeah.
According to Americans, yeah. It's a big Japanese word.
He did not use the word dishonor. You have dishonored your family.
But he might as well have.
He may, well, yeah,
because
exactly.
he said, ashamed.
Here is a knife. You commit harikari.
Right now, in front of your friends. Sorry.
Offensive. We are horrible people. Moving on. So they say, look, Miko made a little mistake. We learn from our mistakes. Other young girls have made mistakes, and they start naming famous people. Oh, so-and-so said that she made some mistakes. So-and-so that. And he says...
My favorite chauvinistic line.
Yeah, he says, I am well aware that women make mistakes. And Mrs. Garrett says...
Women! It was great.
It was like, how many syllables was women?
At least four. Because I thought the line, I thought the line was, the line was funny because he's supposed to be a chauvinistic character.
Yeah. And that's a thing that we presume about their culture as well. And honestly, many, many foreign cultures, particularly in the 80s, had not...
Foreign, Jesus, you don't have to look past our own backyard.
Exactly, right now.
God, right now, yeah.
There are so many misogynistic cultures out there, and today, like you said, and back in those days, it was a safe assumption.
Right. And I think for comedic value, the line was funny. For me, it had a deeper meaning that was rooted, in the feminist, discussion we were having. But it was really... It was so cool that she had that reaction. Mrs. Garrett had that reaction.
Yeah, to women.
Absolutely.
This is the time of, women's lib. We're kind of still riding that wave. And we haven't even gotten to, the real corporatization of America and women having higher corporate positions and the power suits with the sneakers walking through the streets of New York to their big time jobs and all that. That's still yet to come. We're still in the middle of that. He says, well, tough shit, pack your bags, you're coming home. I'm paraphrasing. And he walks out of the kitchen and he leaves Mrs. Garrett has a little meltdown.
Yeah.
And the two words, that man! Ooh! Mrs. Garrett is riled up. Like we've never really seen her riled up.
Yeah.
And she's about to go out and give him what for, as they'd say in the day.
Because he is cold, he's a robot, he's Japanese, and he's misogynist.
Yes, exactly. It's like, fuck this dude. I think she says, I'm going to go out there and tell him something about talking and communication. And Joe is like, calm your jets.
Yeah.
Slow your roll.
Let me do this.
Hey, Mrs. Garrett, let me do this and take care of it. And lovely. We get a scene with Nancy McKeon being the voice of reason.
Oh, God, it was great.
How far Joe has evolved over these couple of seasons. It's beautiful. And Joe says to Mr. W, look, please don't send her back. I know you're worried about her losing her heritage. I have heritage, too. I'm from the Bronx.
Yeah.
And very comedically and truthfully, truth in comedy, she says, sometimes being from the Bronx seems more foreign than being from Japan around this place. That's a beautiful line.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And she says, I'm not losing who I am here. And if you'll give it a shot, I will make sure I will look out for her and I will make sure she doesn't lose it. I'll be the one that kind of takes her under my wing.
Yeah.
And he already knows how much Miko idolizes Joe.
Her. And he's got a great line too then. A beautiful line.
And he says...
Oh, you don't remember?
I don't remember.
Line?
What is it?
Oh, he says, well, as long as she has friends like you.
Oh. My daughter has made some bad decisions.
Made some bad decisions.
Choosing you as a best friend is not one of them.
Yeah.
How perfectly syntactically Japanese. That's Yoda talk almost.
Oh, but it was it was just it was sweet.
It was a nice moment.
It was really sweet.
And then Joe even says, "What do you say? Give it a shot." And then when he
that's what right, but that's ultimately why he gives the shot, right? Because he gets what Joe has said earlier. You are an example of someone with heritage, of someone who is proud of your heritage, as someone who has held on to your heritage.
Yeah.
You're smart. You're sitting here convincing me.
Yeah.
So if
you're going to be looking out for my daughter.
If that's who's looking out for my daughter, then she's fine here.
Yeah.
America ain't that bad.
Sure. And it's ironic.
Go America. But
America,
still, it was great.
You're right. That's beautiful, but at the same, and it's so ironic that it's Joe, the unrefined character from the Bronx. She's the fish out of water.
That's right.
In this school. Yeah. And that is
the quintessential American.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Yeah.
And when he agrees to it, one person in the audience gives an aw.
I heard that.
You hear this one stray aw in the silence. It's like
I laughed. We both laughed at that.
And then Mrs. Garrett comes back into the room. I can't be silent anymore. I've just got to make you see the reason. At which point, they're like, girl, calm the fuck down.
Yeah, we handle it.
We've got it. We've got it taken care of.
We did it. But she takes the credit.
And then she's like, I knew you would see the light if I just spoke to you. And yeah, it was, so, I mean, Charlotte, Mrs. Garrett, I've always said her comedic choices are questionable. Mm-hmm. She's great when she's the nurturing mother. And you would have expected her to have had that conversation with him at the end. The fact that Joe is the one, that's a lovely departure. And
they could have swapped those. That's great. That's so true, David. They could have swapped those roles.
Exactly.
That could have been the unrefined, hey, sticking a foot in her mouth and being,
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to punch his lights out.
I'm going to punch his lights out.
Yeah.
They could have totally swapped those roles.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
No,
That's
this was the smarter way to go.
I think so.
And it works. And
except for Charlotte Ray's timing.
Yeah. But the thing is, her going that over the top and it being supported by the story.
The facts of life.
Yeah. And
the facts of life.
But the idea of, the idea that it's the male chauvinism that is what lights the fuse.
That
where
pushes
she's
her
like,
over the edge.
Are you God? And you realize this is the first and only TV show in 1982 to have an all-female cast.
Yeah.
This is a historic show
absolutely.
Where everybody in the opening credits, no one's got a dick. Yeah. That is historic.
That's what I mean. That does not escape me, and that's why I think that's my comment earlier about being self-aware of the entitlement of American youth, being self-aware of some of these the misogynistic themes of just thinking that the girl needs to listen to her father.
Yes.
And you stop dressing in those jeans and stop putting on that makeup. It's not just about American culture. It's about you know.
Male dominating
That's
female.
Right. That's right.
Yeah,
There
absolutely.
was
it's
a
not
lot
a mother,
of that.
It's not a mother and a son. Yeah,
there's a lot of self-awareness and totally ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Which I think is great.
I think so. And then the last bonding moment between Mrs. Garrett and Mr. Wakamatsu, I don't have to say that name again, thankfully, is he mentions, I saw you making that big sandwich. And she says, oh, yes. This is probably the most racist Japanese thing that we do in the show. She says, oh, we call it a Dagwood sandwich. And he says, oh, in Japan, we call it a Godzilla sandwich. I would bet they don't
probably
have a Godzilla sandwich in Japan.
Don't.
I'll look it up to verify. But then he says, but you were making it wrong. And she says, what? And she says, will you start with a layer of olives? And she says, then I put the cheese. He's like, no cheese.
No cheese.
And when you think of it, Asian culture, Asian food, not dairy. There's no dairy really going on. You don't get cheese on your fried rice or your sushi or whatever. So that was consistent. But then he says, then you put on the sardines. And Mrs. Garrett's like, ugh. And this shows you how times have changed. He says, unless you have octopus. And the audience erupts in laughter at the concept of octopus as a food. No one had ever heard of that. Calamari was not a thing. That hadn't, I think that literally did not exist in this country in 82. So when he says, unless you have octopus, and the audience is like, what? ah! And she reacts and is like, I'll find sardines. And then they all applaud. Everything that was wrong is right again.
now right with the
Miko
world.
gets to stay at Eastland, and we never, ever fucking see or hear from her ever again.
Really? She never comes back.
And I found Lauren Tom very appealing. And for performance-wise, she fit right in and became a part of the tapestry of the show. You believe they were friends. It was really nice. She didn't feel like this outsider stepping into it all. They could have maybe
Wouldn't it have been interesting?
around.
I'm surprised they didn't. She could have been another, archetype. She could have been another character that also...
And another non-white person.
Another non-white person. But I was going to say it could have backfired, too, if you just have this non-white and also non-American. So
that's true.
She gives the...
international flavor.
Or not just flavor, but perspective.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it would be a perspective written by Americans.
Yeah,
right.
it would be, yeah.
Well, and you wouldn't want to perpetuate those.
Yeah. Back in my country, we eat our dogs after they die, and we would be like, no!
Oh, God, red flag.
Tim Williams, thank you
David
so
Almeida.
much for being here.
Thank you.
I am so happy we were able to make this
yeah,
work.
Me too.
I hope you had fun. I hope you might come back and do it again sometime.
I would love to come back and do it again sometime. I did. I had a great time. And I wish you the best of luck and lots of Mahtzee.
Okay,
in your future.
You got Mahtzee.
Thank you.
And we're going to leave you on that. Goodbye. And there you have it. That was Tim Williams. Loved getting to hang and gab with him, and we gabbed a lot. Recently, guys, these recording sessions have been out of control with all of the extra gabbing that I've been doing with my guests, mostly me doing the talking because of my over-talkativeness. But there are nearly 30 minutes of extras on the website. If you enjoyed hearing Tim, there's more available there, just like there was a lot of extras with Laura Hodos, with Joy Anderson. I'm enjoying my guests too much. I think that's just, if we need to pinpoint the problem, that's what it is. And that's a beautiful problem to have. And there is one correction before we finish. I can't believe I did this. I forgot to look it up. Lauren Tom does appear one more time as Miko. It's in, I think, in like 5 more episodes. It's the one called Runaway. It's where Tootie goes into the city, separate from the girls, and is almost recruited into sex work, meeting this young girl in this diner. And it's one of the more serious episodes, and I cannot wait to get to that one. And once again, point out that I screwed up here, saying that we only had Miko in 1 episode. It was, in fact, 2. Next week, I'm going to be watching Season 3, Episode 14. The episode is called The Marriage Brokers. And my special guest is going to be actress, comedian, singer, Robin Kelly. I cannot wait. So excited. She and I have been trying to coordinate for months, literally months. So this is very, very exciting. That's all for this week, though. Thank you so much for listening to the show, as always. And remember, the facts of life are all about you. Let's Face the Facts was produced, written, hosted, and edited by me, David Almeida. My theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Our website is facethefactspod.com. You have to drop the let's. And that's where you can find extra pictures, video, and audio extras from the digital cutting room floor. Follow the show on social media. We're everywhere under the handle Face the Facts Pod. And don't forget, go to your favorite podcatchers and subscribe, rate, and review. Tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.